At the beginning of the movie, we see a text appear on screen. Between 1910 and 1970, the Australian government ordered the removal of Aboriginal children from their communities. These children were then integrated into white foster homes in an attempt to breed the color out of the population. It is estimated that 1 in 3 of the country's children were removed by force. The story then shifts to the year 1970, where we see a group of Aboriginal children playing in the woods. Nearby, their mothers are preparing food when one of them hears a vehicle approaching. A woman named Campbell whistles, and all the children quickly hide. 2 white men step out of the car and tell Campbell that they need to speak with her husband. She replies that he is away at work and taunts them, saying they only come around when the men are gone. Another man asks where the children are. Campbell warns them that they are trespassing, but the man claims the mission manager has given them approval. When asked if the children are hiding, Campbell responds that they might be, but advises him not to go looking for them. She warns that there are many things hiding in the dark places around there, things they know about, but the outsiders do not. Suddenly, a boy is seen running past Campbell, and the white men chase after him. Another girl from the community runs to help the boy and manages to hide behind a tree. One of the men spots another girl named Aggie and goes after her, while the other continues looking for the boy. However, when he checks behind the tree, no one is there. Meanwhile, Aggie runs until she reaches a cave. After a moment's hesitation, she hides inside it. Soon, one of the men arrives at the cave entrance, and the other joins him. Both men hesitate, too afraid to go inside, and eventually leave the area. Soon after, Aggie's sister approaches the cave and calls out for Aggie. As Aggie steps outside, a deep, demonic growl is heard. The unseen entity attacks someone, and the girl's screams echo through the forest. The creature growls once more, and the film shifts to the year 2024. We are then introduced to Sarah, a lawyer by profession who is pregnant. She is attending an office party with her friend Becky. While driving back home, Becky asks Sarah how things are going with her birth mother, Ruth. Sarah says, "It feels a bit strange." She admits that she always wondered what Ruth would be like, but never expected her to suddenly be part of her life. Sarah adds that Ruth keeps telling Chloe strange, dreamtime stories, though Fergus, Sarah's husband, seems to like her. As they continue driving, they spot Ruth walking along the road. They stop the car, and Sarah asks if she needs a lift. Ruth gets in, and when Becky asks what she is carrying, Ruth replies she's carrying food to cook for Sarah, good for her and the baby. She then reveals a bag of raw meat, which makes Sarah and Becky uncomfortable. After some time, they arrive home, where they meet Sarah's husband Fergus and his friend Ray. As everyone talks, Sarah's daughter Chloe runs toward her. Suddenly, Sarah experiences sharp abdominal pain, and they rush her to the hospital. In the operating theater, the situation worsens. Sarah delivers the baby, who is immediately taken to the ICU. The monitor then shows a flat line, indicating that Sarah has died. The screen cuts to black, and for a brief moment, a demonic figure is seen in the darkness. Doctors administer a cardiac shock to revive her, and Sarah survives.
Comment. Subscribe to Recapss Horror.
The baby is healthy as well, and is resting safely in Sarah's arms. Sarah's foster parents are also present in the room, and Fergus gestures to Sarah, asking her to give the baby to Ruth. Ruth holds the newborn and begins singing a soft lullaby. Just then, a doctor arrives and takes Fergus aside, explaining that Sarah needs complete rest and that it's a miracle both she and the baby are still alive. Ruth joins as the doctor continues, saying that Sarah technically died on the operating table, and there is no way to predict what complications might come next. Ruth mentions that both Sarah and Fergus have good jobs, but the doctor replies that he already knows this. Sarah then interrupts, thanking the doctor for everything. As he leaves, Sarah's foster mother asks Ruth what that conversation was about. Ruth responds firmly that no one and nothing should try to take this baby, adding that her sister was stolen. Sarah tells her that it all happened years ago, and that hospitals do not steal babies. Ruth replies that Sarah herself was taken from her in a hospital. When Sarah asks whose fault that was, Ruth says, with teary eyes, that the government claimed it was hers. She then leaves the room. Later, the family returns home, and Sarah begins making an omelet for breakfast. As she cracks an egg into a bowl, she is horrified to see an embryo inside. She throws it into the sink, where she sees it moves. As she is about to touch it, it suddenly jerks as if trying to bite her. Sarah then realizes it is only egg yolk and albumin. She checks the other eggs and finds embryos in them as well. Panicking, she smashes all the eggs, and each one appears to contain an embryo. Fergus walks in and asks what is wrong, but the eggs now look completely normal. Sarah apologizes, saying she must be exhausted. Fergus suggests calling Ruth to help, which instantly angers Sarah. He then tells her to rest and offers to make breakfast himself. He hands her the baby, Jacob, but Sarah remains disturbed and confused by what she just experienced. Later, as Fergus leaves for work, he asks Sarah if she is okay and offers to stay home, but she insists that she is fine. After he leaves, Chloe is seen playing while Jacob lies nearby. Sarah works in the kitchen when the sliding door behind her suddenly opens. She notices that Jacob is no longer in his place. Just then, Sarah finds Jacob lying on the floor near the open sliding door. She rushes to pick him up and shuts the door in panic. Sarah asks Chloe why she did that, but Chloe insists she didn't. Sarah places Jacob back in his cot and scolds Chloe, who angrily shouts back at her. Later, when Fergus asks Chloe about the incident, she insists that she did not move Jacob. Fergus then asks Sarah to go and get some rest. Sarah agrees, places Jacob in his cot, and lies down on the bed herself. She soon falls asleep and dreams of the cave from the beginning of the movie, witnessing Aggie and other disturbing visions. She then sees demonic hands reaching toward Jacob. Terrified, Sarah suddenly wakes up and finds Jacob still sleeping safely. Moments later, she is terrified to see a girl standing silently at her bedroom door, her head lowered and hair loose. Cautiously, Sarah moves closer and hears faint whispers. As she approaches, the girl whispers, "He is coming." The girl lifts her head, and it is Aggie, her eyes white. Sarah jolts awake and notices that Jacob is no longer in his cot and rushes outside, only to find Jacob with Fergus. Shaken, Sarah tells him that she just had a bad dream. Fergus once again suggests calling Ruth, but Sarah angrily tells him to stop. The next day, Sarah visits her doctor and explains that she is finding it difficult to recover after Jacob's birth. The doctor suggests medication to help her sleep, but Sarah is hesitant. That night, she decides not to take the medicine, and as a result, she cannot fall asleep. Just as she closes her eyes, she hears a creaking sound and sees her bedroom door slowly open. A girl is standing there. Frightened, Sarah grabs a vase to defend herself, only to realize it is Chloe who wants to sleep with them. Afterward, Sarah finally takes the sleeping medication and lies down in bed. The scene ends with a brief, chilling glimpse of the demon. The next morning, Sarah is seen sleeping late. Fergus hands her the baby and asks if he should take the day off, but Sarah tells him to go ahead. Still half asleep, she lies back down with Jacob beside her. Later, she is seen playing with Jacob as he smiles at her. Suddenly, Jacob's eyes turn demonic as he begins crying in an unnatural voice. Sarah jolts awake, realizing it was just a nightmare. She sees Jacob lying safely next to her and kisses him in relief. Later, while working on her laptop, Sarah notices Chloe playing and talking to someone. Moments later, Aggie appears standing behind Sarah and whispers, "He is watching you." Terrified, Sarah quickly gets up and pulls Jacob into her arms. When she looks again, Aggie is gone. She then notices Chloe staring directly at her. Suddenly, someone begins knocking aggressively on the door, non-stop. Sarah opens it to find Ruth standing there. Annoyed, Sarah asks why she is here, especially since she was supposed to go back to where she came from. Ruth pulls out ritual items from her bag, and Sarah immediately tells her not to perform anything inside the house, warning that the smoke will trigger the detectors, and they could be fined. Despite this, Ruth draws a yellow line on the wall with a thick paste, angering Sarah. Ruth then asks if she can apply some of it on Jacob. Reluctantly, Sarah agrees. Ruth places a white paste on Jacob's forehead, but as she tries to feed it to him, Sarah immediately stops her, saying she cannot feed dirt to her baby. Chloe offers to have some instead, but Sarah stops her as well and demands that Ruth leave. As Ruth turns to go, Chloe says she doesn't want her to leave. Ruth reassures her that she will return soon and warns her to watch out for the Mugai. Sarah snaps at Ruth for filling Chloe's head with such ideas and slams the door shut. Inside, Chloe tells Sarah that she has seen the Mugai before. She describes it as a man with long arms, saying he isn't scary and that she likes him. This enrages Sarah, who shouts that Ruth is a crazy old woman and not her real granny. Unaware she's being heard, Sarah's words break Ruth's heart, and she quietly walks away. Next, we see Sarah dropping Chloe off at school, where her teacher, Miss Miller, asks Sarah if she is doing all right. Sarah replies that she is fine. Miss Miller mentions that she heard the birth was difficult. Surprised, Sarah asks where she heard that, and Miss Miller explains that Fergus told her when he dropped Chloe off the other day. She adds that if Sarah needs any support, she should feel free to let them know. Later, we see Sarah cleaning the yellow line Ruth had drawn inside her house, when there is a knock at the door. It is Becky. The two of them sit together, having wine and talking about work. Becky tells Sarah about a big opportunity at the office that she could take if she returns to work now. As Becky continues explaining, Sarah becomes distracted by the sound of Jacob crying continuously. She tells Becky that she wants to check on him to see if he stops crying. Becky says that Jacob isn't crying at all. Confused, Sarah asks if Becky really can't hear it. They then see that Jacob is sleeping peacefully. Suddenly, Sarah remembers that she has to go to school to pick up Chloe. They reach the school, and Sarah goes into the classroom to collect Chloe. Miss Miller asks Sarah about a bruise on Chloe's arm. While Sarah is speaking, Miss Miller asks if she is drunk. Sarah admits that she had a glass of wine, and Miss Miller says she cannot allow Chloe to leave with an intoxicated parent. Sarah grabs Chloe's hand, and in the resulting chaos, Jacob slips from Sarah's arms and falls. Later, the police arrive at the school. Sarah accuses Miss Miller of causing her to drop her baby. She explains that she had a couple of glasses of wine with lunch while meeting a friend, and then came to pick up Chloe, but the teacher made a snap judgment and is now casting aspersions on her character. The police then ask Becky whether they had wine together over lunch. Becky denies it, shocking Sarah. Sarah tries to pull Chloe away, but the police stop her. Just then, Fergus arrives at the scene. He manages to pull Sarah out of the situation. Sarah hands Jacob to Fergus and angrily asks Becky why she lied. Becky explains that she couldn't let the police record show that she had been drinking and driving during work hours, as she could lose her job. Furious, Sarah storms off. She then confronts Fergus, asking why he didn't stand up for her, and why he told Miss Miller that she was having a difficult time with Jacob. Sarah vents her frustration, angrily criticizing Miss Miller, and decides to withdraw Chloe from the school. Later that night, Sarah lies awake in bed. She suddenly sees a young girl standing in the doorway. Thinking it is Chloe, she tells her to come to bed, but the girl is Aggie, who softly whispers that he is coming for them. Then we see Sarah staring at the doorway in terror. Fergus wakes up and asks what she's doing. Sarah says she is waiting. When he asks what for, she is seen clutching both her children and says that the little girl warned her that someone is coming. Confused, Fergus asks what girl she is talking about and tries to reassure her that nothing is there. Sarah insists that the girl said he is watching them and waiting for the right moment, believing Sarah will be careless so he can take her babies. Fergus comforts her, telling her to sleep and assuring her that he will stay awake to make sure nothing happens. However, Sarah remains terrified, staring at the doorway until she eventually falls asleep. As the scene ends, a demonic hand slowly approaches the door. The next morning, Ruth arrives at the house, and Chloe hugs her tightly. Sarah looks exhausted and irritable from lack of sleep. Ruth asks her if she has seen children with white eyes, saying they are the stolen ones, children taken by the Mugai. Sarah is visibly shaken by this revelation. A flashback shows Aggie's sister calling her out of a cave. As Aggie steps forward, a demon suddenly grabs her. Her sister desperately holds onto her hand, but the Mugai attacks her and drags Aggie into the darkness. Terrified, Aggie's sister is forced to run away. Back in the present, it is revealed that Ruth is Aggie's sister. She then gives Sarah an object that looks like a piece of snakeskin, telling her it will protect her. Ruth warns Sarah that she must not let the Mugai enter. Later that night, during dinner, Fergus offers Sarah a glass of wine. Sarah notices that there is medicine mixed into it and asks Fergus if he believes her about the little girl. Fergus replies that he accepts that she saw something, but reassures her that everything will be fine and that they will get through this together. Angrily, Sarah drinks the wine and sarcastically asks if there is anything else he wants her to take. She eats some bread and says she is going to lie down. She then gets up, throws the bread onto the floor, and storms off. The next morning, Sarah angrily tells Fergus to throw away the object Ruth gave her. Fergus insists that Ruth said it would keep evil spirits away. Later, Sarah notices many eggs scattered around Jacob. She picks one up, and it breaks open, revealing a snake inside. Horrified, Sarah sees snakes crawling around Jacob and screams as she tries to lift him, but his leg is stuck in the crib. Fergus rushes in and gently takes Jacob. Seeing no snakes now, Sarah breaks down, crying that she has no idea what is happening. In anger, she demands Fergus throw away the protective object Ruth gave her, and he finally does. Fergus then asks Ray to look after the children. Sarah refuses, saying she will not leave her kids. Fergus assures her that it will only be a quick visit to the doctor. Ray reassures Sarah that he will take good care of the children. At the doctor's office, Sarah tells the doctor that she has been seeing things. She explains that she sees a little girl who warns her about a man with long hands who wants to take her children. She says the girl appears in her dreams, but she has also seen her while awake. The doctor remarks that sleep-deprived people cannot think clearly or make informed decisions. This angers Sarah. The doctor then says that he believes Sarah is suffering from psychosis and that she needs to be admitted. Sarah refuses, saying she cannot leave her children because the Mugai will take them. The doctor responds that Sarah is a danger to her children right now. Sarah turns her anger toward Fergus, accusing him of bringing her there. Two men then enter the room to take Sarah away. Fergus signs the documents, and the men forcibly escort her out. Sarah screams for Fergus to believe her, begging him to keep the children with him and take care of them as she is dragged away. The scene cuts to Fergus putting Chloe to bed. After Chloe falls asleep, he leaves, and moments later, Aggie appears in her room and quietly closes the door. Fergus then goes to the other room, lies down, and Jacob is sleeping beside him in his crib. Meanwhile, Sarah is screaming in her hospital room, begging to be let out. She becomes aggressive, and the attendants forcibly restrain her to the bed and inject her, causing her to lose consciousness. At the same time, Fergus looks at photos of Sarah on his phone, missing her deeply when Jacob suddenly starts crying. Fergus notices the Mugai's long hands reaching out toward Jacob, and suddenly it haunts Fergus. Terrified, Fergus opens the door with Jacob in his arms as the Mugai emerges from behind the bed. He quickly locks the door and calls out to Chloe as the creature bangs violently on it. Fergus orders Chloe to go downstairs and wait in the car. Fergus rushes to the hospital with Jacob and Chloe. He tells a nurse that he admitted his wife earlier that day and now wants to sign her out. The nurse refuses, but Fergus insists and runs inside to get Sarah. Entering her room, he apologizes for not believing her. Sarah is still heavily sedated. Eventually, they manage to escape the hospital. On the way, Sarah hears Fergus calling Ruth and telling her that the Mugai is real and is coming after them, and that he is heading to her place with his family. Sarah remains dazed from the medication. As Fergus continues driving, he also begins to feel drowsy, so they decide to stop at a hotel for the night. There, Sarah tells Fergus to sleep, assuring him that she will take care of the children. The next morning, Sarah realizes that Chloe is missing. Fergus rushes outside to search for her. Suddenly, Sarah spots Aggie standing at a distance, silently pointing in a direction. Fergus runs that way and finds Chloe standing alone. He gathers her into his arms, and we see that she seems lost. We then see Fergus and Sarah continuing their journey toward Ruth's place. Along the way, they stop at a gas station to refuel. On the phone, Ruth urgently warns Fergus to hurry, saying the Mugai will follow them and that they must reach her before nightfall. Sarah and Chloe enter the convenience store, where news about Sarah escaping from the hospital is playing on the television. Suddenly, the police arrive at the gas station, and one of the officers tells Fergus that he looks familiar. Fergus replies that he isn't from around there. When the officer asks for his name, Fergus remains silent. Inside the store, Sarah spots Aggie, who whispers that he is here now and that he will get them. Meanwhile, the police detain Fergus. We then see Sarah fleeing into the woods with Jacob and Chloe. Exhausted from running, night falls, and they stop to rest beneath a tree in the forest. Soon, an eerie sound of the Mugai echoes nearby. Chloe wakes up at the sound, which continues to grow louder. She tells Sarah that she and Jacob have to go now. The Mugai growls, jolting Sarah awake. She tries to run but falls and hits her head on a rock. Chloe calmly says that the Mugai will take care of them. The creature then grabs Jacob and lifts him away as Sarah cries helplessly. Chloe tells her that Jacob is gone and that she is going with him. Pulling her hand free from Sarah's grip, Chloe follows the Mugai into the darkness, leaving Sarah lying on the ground, crying in despair for her children. Later, we see Chloe encounter Ruth along the way, and together they return to the devastated Sarah. Sarah tells Ruth that the Mugai took Jacob and apologizes for doubting her and not believing her earlier. Ruth embraces her. Sarah is then shown asleep in Ruth's vehicle, as Ruth takes them to the cave where Aggie was taken by the Mugai. Ruth explains that Jacob is inside the cave, and that the Mugai is currently asleep. They enter the cave, spot Jacob, and Sarah brings him back. They then reach a large tree, where Ruth tells Sarah that this is where their babies came into the world, and this is where they will make their final stand. Ruth spreads her coat on the ground and asks Sarah to lie down there with Jacob, telling her she needs to rest because it will be a long night. She then takes Chloe with her. Sarah lies down beside Jacob and soon falls asleep. Meanwhile, Ruth and Chloe place wooden sticks around the tree, forming 2 protective circles. After some time, Sarah wakes up and notices many photographs of children placed around the tree. Ruth tells her that these are all the children the Mugai has stolen. Sarah picks up Aggie's photo and asks who she is, saying she has seen her before and that she has been haunting her and leading the Mugai to her. Ruth replies that Aggie is her sister, Sarah's aunt, and explains that she has been protecting Sarah all along. Overcome with emotion, Sarah cries and says they have all suffered so much. Ruth then applies a white paste to Jacob's forehead, and then to Chloe's. Sarah then makes Jacob and Chloe taste the paste herself. Ruth explains that the Mugai will no longer be able to see the children, but Sarah will have to lure it into the circle. Sarah then lights fire along both outer circles. As darkness falls, the Mugai's haunting sounds echo through the forest. The bushes begin to rustle, and the creature finally reveals itself, crawling toward them. Ruth starts singing, and the Mugai continues advancing. It is horrifying, with a grotesque face embedded in its brain, leaving Sarah terrified at the sight of it. Ruth instructs Sarah to place a burning stick into a hole in the ground, causing numerous snakes to rise from their burrows. Though frightened by the snakes, the Mugai still manages to cross both fire circles and stand upright. Just then, it hears Jacob crying. Ruth sends Chloe into hiding and throws a snake at the Mugai, causing it to writhe in pain and fall. Ruth then reveals that she has been bitten, and as she collapses, the Mugai manages to rise once again. It reveals its true face to Sarah, then attacks her, slapping her violently. He then grabs her head and smashes it against the ground. Hearing Jacob cry once more, the Mugai turns and begins striking the tree bark where Chloe is hiding with Jacob. Chloe screams for help, and Sarah loses consciousness, experiencing terrifying visions of all the trauma she has endured. Sarah suddenly opens her eyes and calls out to the Mugai. When it turns toward her, she applies the white paste to her own face and says, "You want to see something scary?" She tastes the paste, making herself invisible to the creature. Confused, the Mugai looks around in shock as Sarah strikes it hard with a log, hitting it again and again until it falls into the place filled with snake. The snakes coil around its body and it begins to burn, writhing in agony before finally dying. Seeing this, Sarah breathes a sigh of relief and rushes to Ruth, with Chloe and Jacob joining her. Ruth apologizes to Sarah for not being able to protect her. Sarah tells her that she found her in the wilderness and brought her home. Ruth replies that she should have done more and tells Sarah that she loves her. Tearfully, Sarah responds, calling her mom as Ruth dies peacefully in her arms. We then see Aggie's spirit, her eyes returning to normal. Sarah then sees the spirits of all the children taken by the Mugai in the distance, their heads lowered. They lift their heads, their eyes returning to normal, finally set free. The next morning, Sarah applies the white paste to Ruth's forehead. Chloe places flowers on her, and the two walk away together. Chloe turns and asks Sarah if she heard something. Sarah asks what she means, then gently takes Chloe onward. In the final scene, the spirits of Ruth and Aggie reunite, seen playing the same game they once played in childhood. With this, the film comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.